Imagine this. In the middle of an ancient war, a mysterious king appears out of nowhere. He offers a blessing, accepts a tribute, and then just vanishes. I mean, for a guy who shows up in just a handful of verses, he casts one of the longest shadows in the entire Bible. So today, we're going to try and unravel the mystery of Melchizedek.
This quote from Jeffrey Krem's just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the puzzle. How can someone, the Bible says, and I quote, almost nothing about, become the model for a perfect eternal priesthood? Well, that's the mystery we're digging into today.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with his one and only appearance in the book of Genesis. Then we'll break down his name and his titles to find some hidden clues. After that, we'll jump way forward in time to see how he becomes this major figure in the New Testament. We'll explore the big theories about who he actually was. And finally, we'll look at why this ancient figure still matters today.
Okay, so our story kicks off in the book of Genesis, chapter 14. But to really get why Melchizedek's sudden appearance is such a big deal, you first have to understand the complete chaos that was happening right before he steps onto the stage.
So let's set the scene. This wasn't some quiet afternoon meeting. A massive regional war had just gone down. Abram, who, by the way, isn't even called Abraham yet, had just pulled off this incredible, daring rescue of his nephew, Lot. So he's on his way home feeling victorious, and suddenly he's met by two kings. One is the king of Sodom, but the other, well, that's our man of mystery. And this is the moment. Right here, out of absolutely nowhere, this king-priest named Melchizedek shows up. And get this, he doesn't come with swords or an army. He brings out bread and wine, a sign of peace and blessing. He blesses Abram in the name of God Most High. And then in a move that is just hugely significant, Abram gives Melchizedek a tenth of all the spoils of war. He's basically acknowledging that this guy has a superior spiritual authority. And just like that, poof, he's gone. After this one brief, powerful encounter, Melchizedek just disappears from the story. But he leaves behind this amazing trail of clues, and they're all hidden in plain sight, right there in his name and his titles. So first up, his name. It's not just a name, really. It's more like a job description. It comes from the Hebrew words for king, malach, and righteousness, sadak. So right away, he's presented not just as some political ruler, but as a just moral authority, a king of righteousness. And it gets even better. He's also the king of Salem. The root of that word is shalom, which of course means peace. So now we've got a king of righteousness who is also the king of peace. And yeah, most scholars are pretty certain that this ancient city of Salem is the very same place that would one day become, you guessed it, Jerusalem. And this last title, this might be the most important one of all. He's not just a priest of some local Canaanite god, no. He's a priest of God Most High, El Elyon. This is huge because it shows that he, a non-Hebrew, was worshiping the one true God, the same God Abram recognized. And this was happening long before the formal Israelite priesthood was even a thing. So for about 1,000 years, that's it. Crickets. You get this brief story in Genesis, then a single prophetic line in Psalm 110. And then suddenly, in the New Testament's letter to the Hebrews, Melchizedek is pulled back out of obscurity and put right at the center of this incredibly deep theological argument. I mean, this chart really tells the story, doesn't it? You've got one mention in Genesis, one little line in Psalms, and then boom, the book of Hebrews just explodes with references to him. The author takes these tiny little threads from the Old Testament and weaves them into this powerful case about the very nature of Jesus Christ's own priesthood. The author of Hebrews sets up this amazing contrast. On one side, you've got the standard Aaronic priesthood. It's all based on your family tree. You had to be a descendant of Aaron from the tribe of Levi. But it's also temporary, right? Because priests are human, and eventually they die. But then you have Melchizedek's priesthood. And the key feature here is what isn't said about him. There's no recorded family, no birth date, no death certificate. This makes him a type, a perfect symbol of a totally different kind of priesthood, one that's eternal, appointed directly by God, and not based on who your dad was. And this, the author argues, is the superior order of priesthood that Jesus belongs to. Okay, so all of this theological weight is being put on a guy we meet for, 3 verses? So it all leads to the billion-dollar question. Who on earth was he? His mysterious nature has, you can imagine, fueled centuries of speculation, and it's led to some pretty fascinating theories.
So let's run through the main suspects. The simplest explanation is that he was just who the text says he was, a real historical Canaanite king who somehow kept the faith and worshipped the one true God. Then you have the traditional rabbinic view, which says he was actually Shem, the righteous son of Noah. Things get a little wilder with texts from the Dead Sea Scrolls, which suggest he might have been an angel, maybe even the archangel Michael. And finally, a really popular theory in Christian theology is that this was a Christophany, basically a pre-incarnate appearance of Jesus himself.
So look, regardless of who he actually was, the idea of Melchizedek has had this incredibly powerful and lasting legacy. His very short appearance made such a huge impact that his name and his priesthood have been talked about and interpreted by major world religions ever since.
The reach of this one figure is just incredible. In Judaism, he's often seen as the great patriarch Shem. In Christianity, he's the ultimate prototype for Christ's role as the great high priest. For the Latter-day Saints, their higher priesthood is named directly after him. And in some Islamic traditions, he's even connected to the mysterious figure of Khidr, a wise guide to the prophets. His symbolic power is just undeniable. So what this all shows is that Melchizedek's priesthood just breaks all the normal rules. It's not about your bloodline, it's about righteousness. It brings together political authority and spiritual authority, king and priest. And most importantly, it isn't temporary. It's presented as something eternal, a universal ideal. Ultimately, this is why he's still such a compelling figure today. Melchizedek stands as this powerful symbol. He represents a direct relationship with God that goes beyond any single tribe or nation or set of laws. He's the king of righteousness and the king of peace, a timeless picture of the ideal ruler and spiritual guide. So, was he a real man, a powerful literary symbol, or maybe something more? The Bible kind of leaves that question open for us to wonder about. And maybe that's why the mystery of Melchizedek continues to fascinate us, even thousands of years later. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.